Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. That is Arabic for peace be with you all. I'm Imran and today we have a Nintendo Switch which has no power. So we're gonna open it up and see what is causing it to not turn on. So let's get started. Looks like somebody's been here before. So let's go ahead and remove the shields, metal back, whatever you want to call it. Alright, so first thing first, let's disconnect the battery. Let's go ahead and test the voltages. So we have 2.4 volts of the battery, which means the battery is extremely low and it is not going to charge the battery at this voltage. So we'll have to boost up the battery voltages by applying power using our DC power supply. There we have it. Let's connect the terminals. Turn on power supply. And it is not connected yet. There we go. We have the power going to the battery now. So I'm going to do that for at least a minute or two so that we get the battery voltages to at least 3.7, because from that point on you can charge the battery using the regular charger for your Nintendo Switch. Because 3.7 are the voltages of the battery when your Nintendo shows you that okay, the battery is low. So if the voltages in the battery drops below 3.7, chances are it's not going to boot up, neither is going to charge the battery. I'm going to leave it for a minute and I'm going to come back later. Alright everyone, so the battery is charged. It is now showing us 3.7 on the multimeter. Let's go ahead and connect the battery back in, but before we go ahead and do that, let's just make sure that battery terminals are not shorted. So these two are negative or grounds anyway, and the positive terminals are not shorted to ground. Let's go ahead and plug the battery in, and let's try and plug the power button. Sorry, press the power button, not plug. So we have pressed the power button and we've got nothing. Still no power. Okay, time to plug in the charger. Type C. charges in. And we have no activity on the screen whatsoever. Now, one thing I would like to mention is the charging port looks like it's been replaced, but before we go ahead, let's take a look under the microscope and see what it is that is actually causing the problem. So there we are. As you can see, replace charging port. Looks good to me, except one pin over here. That's fine too. Now the problem with these are this specific Type-C adapter is there is one row of pins here that is visible and you can see it under the microscope, and there is an other row of pins over here which is not accessible, not visible in any way or case unless the charging port is removed. So I have no way of making sure that this charging port has been seated right and there is no short between those pins that are not visible. So what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the battery, remove all the connectors and get our motherboard out. Okay, let's get the microscope out of our way. Okay, we have our motherboard out. Now let's go ahead and try and take a look. Now you can see a few pins under there from here, but not all of them. And from the looks of it, it seems that the charging port is fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn the multimeter into continuity mode so we can check for the shorts. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to try and see if that thing PI3USB chip is faulty or not. To do so, we'll go ahead and check on that cap over here. So this is a capacitor. It should have one side on ground and the other not so very ground, but by the looks of it, both of them are grounded, which means either that cap is faulty or that chip itself. But by the looks of the cap, it doesn't seem like the cap is faulty. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the board around and try and check if there is anything else that is shorted to ground. other than that obvious capacitor. So we have short over here. Now this cap is shorted as well, and this cap is related to that chip M92T36, which can also be causing the short. So what are we going to do now is we're going to remove that PI3USB, that is Paricom USB switch for type C ports. Mildly heat the motherboard, then apply a little flux. And then remove the chip. One more thing to note here is, before removing the chip, make sure you know the orientation of the chip, that is which side the chip is going to go on. So it has a little dot here, tiny dot. This one tells us that what is the orientation of the chip. So for this chip, the orientation is the bottom left corner. So we have taken off our chip. Alright, now let's go ahead and test same pins again. And as you can see, one side is grounded and the other is not, which means that chip was definitely faulty. Now flip the board and check that cap again, which was shorted on this side, and it was this one here. And as you can see, short on one side, which is the ground pad, and nothing on the other side, which is good. So we now have our culprit. So let's go ahead and prepare the motherboard for the new chip. First things first, a bit of a leaded solder to make it easier to clean up. That's done. Then the wicking. Alright, so wicking is done. Cleaning up the burnt flux, sorry, not flex, it's flux. That's done. Put some put some fresh flux on. Tin the pads. time for the new chip. Now remember the orientation. It was bottom left. So the bottom left. Let's go ahead and reheat our motherboard. So the reason I do that before putting the chip on is to make sure we do not overheat the chip and cause it to go bad. So now, as you can see, the solder is melted. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on over here, apply a little bit of heat, wait for it to settle down. Done. Okay. Now that this is connected, we're going to press right here in the middle and heat it up again to make sure every single joint is perfect. That is done. Let's use our soldering iron again to clean up the extra solder. Alright, that is done. Cleaning up again the rest of the flux. Okay, so I'm going to use brush and tissues to clean in between the pins. Because the cotton bud can't get inside the pins. And that is what we're doing here. That is done. Soak it up using the tissue. Okay, so we have a nice and clean, shiny new PI3USB chip. So let's go ahead and check for the continuity again. On the cap that was shorted before, ground, no ground, which is good, and I hope that this has sorted our problem. So let's go ahead and Okay, that's good too. Time to put it back into the chassis. Plug in the battery, press the power button, and we have display. And there we go. So we're gonna shut it down. Actually, plug it back in. We're gonna test the charging port as well, just to be sure that it is charging. And it is charging. %, and charging. The other side of the USB. Alright, charging as well. Alright, so this is it for today, and I hope you guys learned something, and I will see you in the next video.